Bruce Johnson here, and I'm guessing that the reason you're watching this video is because you're in a leadership position and you have a responsibility to lead a meeting, let's say a staff meeting, and you're frustrated that the meeting isn't going like you'd like it to go. Now, chances are your frustration is from one of three sources. First of all, you might be frustrated because it's not as productive as you'd like it to be. You've planned the agenda, you've put everything together, you want to get certain kinds of results, and you're not getting those results out of your meeting. And you're frustrated about that. Second reason you might be frustrated is because the people who are attending your meeting just don't seem to be as engaged as you think they ought to be. Maybe they're spending too much time on their iPhones or Blackberries or iPads. And maybe their nonverbals are all like, I don't want to be here. And you're just frustrated that people aren't as engaged as you think they ought to be. And the third reason would be that you're frustrated because it seems that when your team comes together and you have to make a decision, they just can't make decisions well. That they're always arguing and there's a fair amount of conflict because they just don't seem to think, act, and feel very similarly. Now, if you've experienced any one of those three issues, it's good news, you're normal. I mean, every single leader experiences them. And there are a number of reasons why. But I want to focus in on one reason in this video, and that one reason is this, that most leaders make a classic leadership mistake when they're leading a meeting, and that is this. They like to lead meetings the way they like a meeting to be led. Now, you might be thinking, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is that no matter what your personality preference is, the vast majority of the people in the world, they just don't think, act, and feel like you. So what you think is interesting, not everyone else does. And almost every leader makes this mistake. Now, to help you understand this, I want to use a framework that I really like called the Myers-Briggs. And you don't need to know the Myers-Briggs to understand what I'm about to say, so don't worry. But the Myers-Briggs breaks people down into four basic temperament types. They call them the NF, the NT, the SJ, and the SP. Don't worry about the nomenclature. The NT is kind of the idea person. This is the person who likes theories and ideas. They like strategic planning. They like to think about the future. And I'm an NT. I love that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, only about 15% of the population are NTs, even though a lot of NTs lead meetings. So what we think is interesting, remember 85% of the people may not. The second group would be called NFs. Now, NFs are great people. NFs, though, different than NTs, even though they're future-oriented, are more concerned not about the objective idea, they're more concerned about people and relationships and how this is going to affect the people on the team and our customers. And so the orientation is different, even though both are future-oriented. They want different things. Now, the third category would be the SJ. By the way, NFs are 15% also. SJs represent 40% of the population. Now, SJs, on the other hand, they don't care about the future. SJs are oriented toward the past, and they're not really big into brainstorming. SJs like to know how to do something, and they don't want to talk about new ideas. They want to say, hey, the 53 ideas we already had that we haven't executed on, why aren't we fixing those things rather than talking about something new? Then you've got the SPs, and SPs represent about 30% of the population. SPs are the experiencers. They're totally focused in on the moment right now. They really don't care about the past. They're not that interested in the future. They're right now, here, today. And they don't care about 5 or 10 steps down the road. They just want to know what's the next action. They almost want to say, what's the next thing we need to do? Let's break the meeting, and when we do that, we'll come back again. But why in the world are we spending 4 hours in brainstorming? So every meeting, if you have enough people, probably has at least one or more of those 4 different types of people. Since they all think differently, you can see when you try to lead a meeting the way you like it to be led, you got a problem. So let's say as an NT, I try to lead a meeting the way I like to lead. Well, then 85% of the people aren't as interested in that. So as I'm thinking about strategic planning and big ideas, the SP is like totally frustrated because I don't care about 5, 10 steps down. All I want to do is deal with today, right? The SJ is like, I'm overwhelmed by this and I want to fix the other things that are on my plate. I don't have any time to deal with this, and how in the world are we going to get this done? You've got the NF who's thinking, well, Bruce, you're not paying attention to the people in the room and they're not as interested in the things that you're interested in. And all of a sudden you've lost everything. Why? Because you're leading a meeting the way you want it to be led. So you may be reading the people in your room wrongly. It may not be that they're not engaged. It may not be that they really don't care. It may be that you're leading a meeting the way you like it to be led. And that means that if you want to become great at leading meetings, you have to learn how to get outside of you, and you've got to learn to think like them. And you've got to organize a meeting so it's not just about the future-oriented things, and it's not just focused on the past. It's not just focused on right now. It's not just focused in on how everyone's feeling, but you think about all four of those things every single meeting. And if you can learn to think like the people on your team, then you can begin to adjust the way you lead a meeting so that the NTs, the NFs, the SJs, and SPs all feel like, hey, I like this meeting. We're talking about things that I care about. And you'll find that productivity goes up, engagement goes up, and conflict goes down. Now, if you'd like to know a lot more about how to lead people who don't think, act, and feel like you, then I want to encourage you to go to my website, MyersBriggsLeadership.com. MyersBriggsLeadership.com. And there you'll find a lot of information about how to lead people who don't think, act, and feel like you. To your accelerated success, I wish you well. Bruce out.